All right, good morning. We're going to get started. We'll call our August 28th, 2024 meeting to order. This public meeting of the Philadelphia Board of Pensions and Retirement is being conducted in person in the board's conference room at the board's office on the 16th floor of Penn Center. Pursuant to section 21-1503 of the Philadelphia Code, electronic recordings of the meeting will be made through Microsoft Teams conference technology and by an audio recording. Electronic recording will be available to the public online on the board's website without charge within 10 days. Please note that you consent to such recording by attending, participating, or speaking at this meeting. Our first order of business is a motion to adopt the rule of order that the board has approved and used for our in-person public meetings that are electronically recorded. The purpose is to help ensure an accurate and complete audio and audio-visual recording of the meetings to comply with the code requirements. Item 1, a motion to adopt procedures for today's meeting was made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will work for the roll. Brian.
Approve.
Renee.
Approve.
Marcia.
Approve.
Paul.
Approve.
Andrea. Willie. Adam.
Approve.
And Carol.
Approve.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 2, approval of the meeting minutes, July 30th, 2024. Motion was made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian.
Approve.
Renee.
Approve.
Marcia.
Approve.
Paul.
Approve.
Andrea. Willie.
Approve.
Adam. And Carol.
Approve.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 3, consideration of 127 pension applications and 36 withdrawal applications. Motion was made and properly seconded. Hearing no discussion. Brian.
Approve.
Renee. Marcia.
Approve.
Paul. Andrea. Billy. Adam.
Approve.
Motion carries unanimously. Moves us to section 4 and case 4A. A motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Joanne Conti was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on 4A? Go to the roll with Brian.
I'll stay.
Renee. Deny. Marcia.
Deny.
Paul.
Stay.
Andrea. Billy. Adam.
Stay.
Carol. Motion fails 0 to 3 with 5 abstentions. Case 4B, a motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Tricia Riley was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on 4B? Brian.
I approve.
Renee. Deny. Marcia.
Deny.
Paul.
Approve.
Andrea. Willie.
Approve.
Adam.
Stay.
And Carol.
Approve.
Motion carries 5 to 2 with 1 abstention. 4C, a motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Andre Howard was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on 4C? Hearing none. Brian.
I'll stay.
Renee. Deny. Marcia.
Deny.
Paul.
I'm staying.
Andrea. Billy.
Staying.
Adam.
Staying.
Carol. On 4C.
So, you know, the case is Air County. So it says submitted by Air County, police officer. That's what's it.
The erroneous reference you're saying, Carol.
I don't know. Could be Air County, it could be Andre Howard. I don't know.
Andre Howard. That's Andre Howard.
Thanks for Josh for clarity.
Andre.
Andre, do I have your vote on 4C, Carol?
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yes.
The motion fails 1 to 3 with 4 abstentions. 4D, motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for pediatric made and properly seconded. Any discussion on case 4D? Brian? Good night. Marcia,
Denied.
Paul,
Abstain.
Andrea, Willie,
Abstain.
Adam,
Abstain.
Carol.
Abstain.
Motion failed 0-3 with 5 abstentions. Case 4E, motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Eric Nelson was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on case 4E? Hearing none. Brian? Okay. Marcia?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Andrea? Approved. Willie?
Approved.
Adam?
Abstain.
And Carol.
Approved.
Motion carries 6-1 with 1 abstention. For F, motion to approve the service-connected disability for Todd Bonatson was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on 4F? Hearing none. Brian?
Abstain.
Renee? Marcia?
Denied.
Paul?
Abstain.
Andrea? Willie?
Abstain.
Adam?
Abstain.
And Carol.
Approved.
The motion fails 0-3 with 5 abstentions. 4G, motion to approve service-connected disability benefits for Christine Starr was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on case 4G? Hearing none. Brian?
Approved.
Aye. Marcia?
Denied.
Paul?
Approved.
Andrea? Approved. Willie?
Approved.
Adam?
Abstain.
And Carol.
Approved.
Motion carries 5-2, 1 abstention. Case 4H, a motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Mark Bird was made and properly seconded. Any discussion of 4H? Ryan? Renee? Marcia?
Denied.
Paul?
Abstain.
Andrea? Willie?
Abstain.
Adam?
Abstain.
And Carol.
Approved.
Motion fails 0-3 with 5 abstentions. Case 4I. Motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Prudence Ortiz was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on case 4I?
Abstain.
Renee? Marcia?
Denied.
Paul?
Abstain.
Andrea? Willie?
Abstain.
Adam?
Abstain.
And Carol.
Approved.
Motion fails 0-3, 5 abstentions noted. Case 4J, motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Johnny Small was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. Brian? Beth? Marcia?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Andrea? Willie? Adam?
Approved.
And Carol. Motion carries unanimously. For K, motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Geraldine Stevenson was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on 4K? And that's Brian,
Abstain.
Renee, Marcia,
Denied.
Paul,
Abstain.
Andrea, Willie,
Abstain.
Adam,
Abstain.
and Carol.
Approved.
I eat with breakfast. Motion fails 0-3 with 5 abstentions. Case 4L, motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Dean Yates was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on case 4L? Hearing none. Brian,
Abstain.
Renee, Marcia,
Denied.
Paul,
Abstain.
Willie, Adam, and Carol.
Abstain.
Motion fails 0-3 with 5 abstentions. Brings us to section 5 in case 5A. A motion to approve a pension disqualification of James Pitts was made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this case? Or any questions? Hearing none. Motion to roll. Brian, Renee, approved. Marcia,
Approved.
Paul,
Abstain.
Andrea, approved. Willie,
Abstain.
Adam, and Carol.
Approved.
The motion carries 5-0 with 3 abstentions. Section 6, old business, and case 6A. A motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits for Zaid Hawkins was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on case 6A? Hearing none, Brian, Renee, Marcia,
Deny.
Paul,
Approved.
Audrey, Willie,
Approved.
Have,
Abstain.
and Carol.
Approved.
The vote was 4-3 with 1 abstention, and as chair, I will vote to make a tie. I'll vote to deny. And so the motion fails for 1 abstention. Case 6B, a motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits for William Bowerly was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on case 6B? Hearing none, Brian, Renee, Marcia,
Deny.
Paul,
Um,
Andre, Lily,
Approved.
Adam,
abstain.
Carol.
Approved.
The vote was 4-3 with 1 abstention. As chair, I'll vote to deny. So the motion fails 4-4. Abstention. Case 6C, the motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits for Kenneth Briggs is made and properly seconded. Any discussion on 6C? Hearing none. Brian, Renee, Marcia,
Deny.
Paul,
Approved.
I'm done. Sit up. Willie,
Approved.
Alan, and Carol.
Approved.
The vote was 4-4. As chair, I'll vote to deny, break the ties for the back of the doubt. And motion fails 4-5. Case 16, motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits for Tian Davis was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on 6D? None. Brian, Renee, Marcia,
Deny.
Paul,
Approved.
Andre, Willie,
Approved.
Adam,
Abstain.
and Carol.
Approved.
The vote was 4-3 with 1 abstention. As chair, I'll vote to deny. So the motion fails 4-4 with 1 abstention. 6E, a motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits for Eric Skelton was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on case 6E? Brian, Renee, Marcia,
Approved.
Paul,
Approved.
Andre, Willie,
Approved.
Adam, and Carol.
Approved.
Motion carries unanimously. 6F, a motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits for Don Sproul was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on this case? Hearing none. Brian,
Aye.
Renee, Marcia,
Deny.
Paul,
Deny.
Andrea, Willie, Adam,
Deny.
Carol. 6F. The motion fails 1-7. 6G, the motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits for Sean Silver was made and properly seconded. Any discussion on 6G? None. Brian, Renee, Marshall,
Approved.
Paul,
Approved.
Willie,
Approved.
Adam, Carol.
Approved.
Motion carries unanimously. Our last case, 6H, motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits for Timothy Wilson is made and properly seconded. Any discussion? And none. Brian, Renee, Marcia,
Deny.
Paul,
Approved.
Andre, Willie,
Approved.
Adam,
Abstain.
and Carol.
Approved.
The vote was 4-3 with 1 abstention. Cheryl votes to deny. So the motion fails 4-4 with 1 abstention.
Thank you.
It was just a new business.
Morning, everyone. We received notice from the state of the receipt of the Act 147 special money. That's money that we received for persons having adjustment benefits for certain officers and firefighters. Now $447,000. Jack's actually still making Jack that's reimbursed for 2023. The trustee fiduciary training extravaganza by Josh. October 17th at 10 a.m. on the 17th floor, Sarge conference room. Should be good. And Marie will be participating not remotely, so we're not sure if she's going to participate in this. The NC Birds Public Safety Conference is October 27th to the 30th. We've already had a couple of trustees express interest, so the board wanted to make a formal motion today to approve it. Let's go to that. That would be helpful. Or essential.
Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Is there a second? Motion to permit trustees to go to that Seaford's conference. It's made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian? Renee? Marcia? Approved. Paul? Approved. Willie?
Approve.
Adam? Approved. Motion carries unanimously.
Pennsylvania version of NC Birds Papers is having their fall work, 2024 fall workshop in Harrisburg, the 13th and 15th. So, if anyone has a motion, I hope you want to attend that.
So, second, Dennis Harrisburg. Motion was made and properly seconded for the Papers Fall Seminar. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brian? Renee? Approved. Marcia? Approved. Paul?
Approve.
Andrea? Approved. Willie? Adam? Approved. Motion carries unanimously.
Just a couple of September 10th, Shamika Burkhan, part of Marsh's team, will be hosting a quarterly retirement seminar. Always very popular. I think in the first day of being hosted, there were over 200 people who signed up. So it's always, because it's virtual, there's no real capacity. So that's taking place on September 10th. It's always very informative. The new medical panel RFP, we've been sending this out pretty regularly. We do have an official provider that did not respond promptly last event. They're still interested, being considered. So we're going to post the RFP. Hope that we get narrowed down with some other providers who respond. So we can do that and see if we have. We can add to the that should be going out. Josh telling me next month or two. The wanted to also announce that the city solicitor has proposed an additional designee to Francois. We're waiting on the document to be signed, but that is the new council for risk management, replacing Marcia. That is Rashida. Rashida Fleetwood. And that's Rashida over there. I want to thank, just take this opportunity. Sorry, Marcia.
Marcia's the one that we're going to take from the outside.
Take the chance to thank Elizabeth and Denise. You see a lot of documents and binders, everything up. A lot of work to be a lot of coordinating for the trustees for conferences and so on and so forth. Not to mention working to do the process the service connected facility. So thank you both for all work. That's it.
Any other new business before the board? Litigation summary, any items? Nope. Okay. The motion to adjourn was made and properly seconded, and we will move into the deferred compensation. portion of the meeting.
At least I know everybody was listening.
No, right, back at you.
Motion to bar July 2024 minutes made and properly seconded. There is no discussion about the minutes. Roll, go ahead.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
The minutes for the first call. Thank you. Adam and Carol. Motion carries unanimously and moves us into the plan update.
Thanks, Nicole. Folks from Nationwide will cover the agenda items 2 and 3 that were deferred update and activity report. And we'll spend about 10 minutes or so providing an update on this engagement program.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As of July 31st, we deferred, thank you. Deferred compensation plan assets, ended at $2,010,162,982. That's about 1.5% increase, but we've hit the threshold of 2 billion. It's amazing. Amazing. Congratulations.
Yes.
Total participants of the account balance is 26,051. That is 52 more than the month of June. Actively deferring is 77% of the demographic that account balance. Bless you. 19,965. That's 20. New enrollments continue to, bless you. New enrollments continue to increase every month. That's thanks to Brad and his team. We received 210 new enrollments. That's 54 more than the month of June. Year to date, that's 1,307 new enrollments. That's 12% increase over last year, which is phenomenal.
Yep.
Especially during these times. Inactive participants compromises about 23% of the participants with balances. That's 6,086. We did see an increase of 32 more since the month of June. Philadelphia Parking Authority has 634 participants, 3 new enrollments in July. Philadelphia Housing Development Corporation has 44 participants. That's 1 new enrollment in the month of July. The 401A plan, the ending balance in July was 3,615,278. Again, great numbers, 1.4% increase since the month of June. 1,125 participants here. We did see 5 participants decrease since June. Call volumes in the month of July was 3,475. That was a decrease of 604 calls since the month of June. When you look at call volumes year to date, we've received 22,119 phone calls. That, again, it looks like big numbers, but when you compare it to the year before, it's 2,000 less than the previous year. So more and more participants are setting up their online account and leveraging the tools and resources with online capabilities. In the month of July, there's about 78.6% of participants have set up an online account. Percentage option, 2,378, utilizing percentage contribution. We did see 24 more than the month of June. Roth, which is the after-tax contributions in July, total count was 7,676, which is 122 more than the previous month, which is June. The plan assets are at 74.8 million. And when we break it down for you by age group of who is in the Roth, and you'll see it's actually functioning exactly the way you all have designed it. 30 to 39 age group is actually capitalizing. That's the strongest participation, 34%. Happy to answer any questions.
Question or thoughts? The online account, 78.6%, you show the percentage. That's good. That's a good positive thing. When you look at the percentage option in the Roth, and I'm always a hawk on it. I'd like to see the percentage if you don't mind. If you could start including the
Oh,
percentage.
absolutely. Yeah, the
Probably-
penetration.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's probably 7%
It
for
is, yeah.
percentage, maybe 25.
I'd be happy, yeah, we'd be happy to see that.
I think it tells a more clear story, like the 78.6 does.
Absolutely.
Things I'd love to see get better. But great report, thank you.
We'll include it. Thank you. Thank you, Brad. I'll pass it on to Brad for service activity.
Thank you, Beanie. Good morning, everyone. For the month of July, the local service team conducted 199 individual one-on-one consultations, resulting in 136 enrollments completed with the local team. 9 of those consultations were conducted using the My Interactive Retirement Planning tool. And the team also conducted 23 group events and workshops with 729 total attendees. Biggest one, thank you to Fran and the pension staff. We did a combined seminar with the pension staff on the city's RUMP program and how that could work and benefit the employees. So that was 232 participants in that seminar. That was Stacey White, local board. So thank you, Frank, and pension staff.
Other questions for Vision One? You good, Karen?
Nope. Pass it on to.
Yeah, we go into everybody. Excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. Amelia Dunlap. I lead the marketing and communications team for Nationwide, and I'm excited to be here with you all today. I'm just here a little over or a little under a year ago, and talk to you all about our participant engagement program. And I couldn't be more excited to be back to share with you some of the early results that we're seeing from the implementation. The headline here is really strong results that we're seeing in terms of engaging participants around retirement readiness actions, and lots more great work to come. So I've got about 10 minutes or so. I'll just give you all a quick reminder, and I know there's a few new faces on what the participant engagement program is and how it works. Share with you the results that we have from Q1 and Q2, and then give you a preview of some of the newer initiatives that we're working on that will line up with different implementations that are going on here for the city. Just so you guys know, we typically, going forward, Dina and Brad will bring kind of a quarterly update on some of these results. I figured since this is the first readout, if you guys have any questions, it might be helpful for me to help walk through some of that. And then going forward, we like to also take a look at this, not only quarterly, but take a step back annually and say, what are we seeing at an aggregate level? Are there any adjustments we want to make? Any new initiatives that we want to think about here? So this is a little bit of an early read just because the program was implemented in January, and so we've got 6 months of data. So without further ado, first slide that you've got in your presentation here, I'll just remind you of what the program is. I often refer to this as an always-on communication vehicle. And so what we're doing is we're taking the data that we have about your participants from a record-keeping and behavioral standpoint. We're using that to build out different models to help us better indicate what's the next best action that we think someone should take and kind of providing the right education. And then we use that as an opportunity to measure and see how we're doing. And so again, that's where we'll get into the results that you'll see on this page are the program aggregate across all of Nationwide's book of business. I do have the city data here in a few slides. So the way that this works, if you go to the next slide, is a little bit more of a visual representation. This shows up often in form of email. And so we use these emails to reach the participant base and introduce different topics and then drive them into different actions, whether that is, educational content, whether that's engaging with some of our tools or driving them into some of the webinars that Brad and team lead on a regular basis. So the whole idea behind the participant engagement program is that we're trying to get people's attention. We're trying to get them to take the right action. Oftentimes that action is talking to someone or going online and learning more. But we all know we live in a world where it's hard to get people's attention. And so this program, I think, does a really nice job of trying to break through and get people to pay attention on the topic of retirement readiness. And then on the next slide here, one of the things that we do, or actually a couple of the things that we do to try to get, again, people to drive the right behaviors. I'll share with you a little bit of the kind of sausage making behind the way that this program works. We use 3 different, kind of machine learning tools to help us get smarter. The first one is called set time optimization. This is quite literally, we know from our data when people are most likely to open their email. And I'll tell you, it's usually Thursday mornings. And that is, we know that you send emails on Monday or Friday afternoon, people aren't going to read those. And so we have a chance to really kind of optimize when and exactly when, within not just the date, but the time that we're going to send these emails for highest likelihood that you're going to catch someone and get them to open up and engage. And so again, we all know that that's part of it's a big part of the battle. We also know that what we're using for the subject line really matters. How are we catching people's attention? We do a lot of testing here, kind of A/B testing, figure out which line is getting the most eyeballs to see it and click through. That's going to be the winner. And then we're always doing that kind of champion challenger. And then finally, we're using predictive modeling. So we're using a lot of the data that we have to build models to say, hey, who do we think is, for example, a potential risk of rolling money out of the plan? And so let's kind of get in front of that and provide education and information ahead of time so that we can hopefully preempt some of those actions. So like I said, this is all the power of this program is built on a lot of the data because we can use that to get smarter in terms of getting people to take action and getting them to really engage with their whether it's their reps or online. So that's just kind of like I said, a little bit of a primer. what you can see on the next couple of slides here, I'll breeze through these, is a little bit of showing that, hey, this really crosses the whole gamut of your participants. So everyone from opportunities where people are eligible to enroll, people who are newly enrolled, and then all the way through the different life stages. We have different newsletters that we're sending on a monthly basis. There's targeted and triggered emails, and then I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing in terms of asset retention. That's an area that we've been more keenly focused on. We're seeing some trends across our book of business in terms of outflows, and so that's an area in terms of staying in plan that we really want to continually drive our education on. And then finally, last page here just gives you a sense of, like I said, we do these monthly newsletters, and they cover really a pretty broad range of topics. They are customized by those different life stages. So young savers, mid-career, transitioners, and retirees are all going to have different content in those newsletters based on kind of where they are in that savings life cycle. We also have opportunities on a monthly basis when there are kind of things that we know are going on a little bit seasonally that we want to get in front of them. IRS limits change, tax season, benefit season, things like that. Those are all opportunities that we have to use this as kind of a broad educational vehicle. So again, that's just kind of a reminder of the program and how it works. The most important part is how it's performing for the city here. And like I said, great, really thrilled with the results across the board. So if you go into this slide, and I apologize, I don't have numbers on that, but one that looks a little bit like this. I'll walk you through, who this is reaching, and I do want to commend you guys because I think this might be the highest plan that we have in terms of marketable, and by that we mean people that we're able to reach with email. So, we have the full city participants. Then we take out some of those that aren't eligible. So for example, if they're only in the 401A, if they've indicated previously that they don't want to receive any communications, those get kind of taken out of the base. And so what we know is that there are around 24,000 of your participants, and that's 95% that we have an email for. And if you look at that tiny text there, our benchmark across our plans is about 66%. So again, just huge kudos to the work that this team has done to really be able to engage efficiently with your participant base. This gives us a really great foundation to be able to use email help to reach out to participants appropriately.
Do you see if there's a correlation between the 94% participation in emails and penetration in terms of savings? Is there some kind of correlation between those two factors? That's probably.
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't looked at that.
Okay.
I'm happy to take that back and take a look here. What I would say is that my gut tells me yes, right? Because
Yes.
when you have
That's
people that are, what we know is that when people are engaged, they're doing right behaviors and they're saving, they're contributing, they're keeping their hands. So generally it trends very positively. But I want to get more than just my gut reaction.
Okay.
So if you go to the next page here, again, really strong results across the board. So I'll walk you through what, I know these are kind of new metrics for you. So I'll walk you through what we measure and what you're looking at here. So once we send, like I said, there's a whole myriad of different, touch points. And just so you know, not everyone's getting every touch point that I walked through on the previous pages. That's part of the targeting here. The first thing that we look at is engagement rate. And what that means is that's not just opening emails, but that's someone who has opened email and taken some kind of action. That action could be going online, setting up an account, making a call to one of our reps, going and engaging with the My Interactive Retirement Planner. And so what we see is that of all the people we're communicating with, about 35% of them are engaging in some way. And again, that's about 5 percentage points higher than what we see as kind of our general plan benchmark. So really good engagement. More importantly, if you look at the right-hand side, we also look at asset drivers. And so what we mean by that is we can take a look and say, not only did someone just make a call or go online, but did they actually take an action that we think is going to be productive for their retirement savings? So in this case, we're looking at, do they increase their contributions or roll in outside assets? So we know those are obviously positive behaviors we're trying to drive. Again, plan is looking at 2 percentage points higher than what we see as our benchmark here. So really thrilled with some of the data kind of coming out of the gates. One other point that I'll call out here is if you kind of go into some of the sub-metrics and the Navy, the one that I would highlight might be just kind of right at our plan benchmark or a little lower is around account creation. So that's people going online and setting up an account. Dina shared earlier, you guys' overall percent is about 78%, so really high in terms of your overall online account adoption. And so I would expect this one may not trend quite as high just because we don't have as much of a volume of people that we're trying. Once people are set up, they can only do it once. And because you have such a high base here, that one may not kind of trend quite as high. But you can see really great engagement and calls going online.
Do we know why people are calling?
We do, and for the most part, and again, we've got some really great data we can follow up with that gives us, some of the topics on why people are calling, and, some of the reason codes behind that. Generally speaking, we see, people have, questions about their account. A lot of times what we see is that people have gone online, they've kind of read something, they might have gone into the interactive tool, they saw, hey, it's like I'm behind. What can I do to, take actions on this? And so that's really the power of, the value of having both an online experience and then the people to help support that, right? And so a lot of times it's just questions about people kind of went online to self-service and then they want someone to help talk about it. We can get more specifics on like the actual reason codes, but generally speaking, there's a connection to.
Because there's such a great difference, it's almost 50% more than their book of business. I mean, your plan. And I think that Bina also talks about that all the time in terms of the call volume, although it's gone down. That tells us something about our employee population. They like a high touch.
Yeah.
And understanding the reasons why they like a high touch and what they would like to understand, understanding and comprehension of the plan. I don't know if those, those could be the reasons, but
Yeah, one thing we can do on that, and I can follow up on this, is within our whole center data, we can go in and kind of search for, are there keywords or are there sentiments? So certainly can come back to you with, are there some drivers behind that? We look at that from a communications perspective,
right.
on a quarterly basis, because if we're seeing, hey, there's a bunch of words that everyone keeps asking about, then that tells us we need to get that information in the emails and online so that we can try to preempt some of it. So that data certainly exists and that.
I would just add anecdotal track. I get a lot of calls from people who have questions about different time. I say, we can do that online. Just know we deal with Brad. We have dealt with Brad in the past. We're continuing to with Brad. So I think it's the presence and the quality customer service that we get. Brad and his team, people value also. So I think that's a factor for the number of percentage calls. I see our world.
Yeah, that's a great call, and I do agree, and I think I have the opportunity sometimes occasionally to go out before bidding for new business, and that's one of the things that we talk about a lot is that we continue to invest in the teams that we support locally, in addition to the digital, because I think what we see is a lot of people are putting tons into the digital. That's great. But ultimately people start there and then they want a person and they want to have a conversation. And I think if you over index too much on the digital, then it's kind of leaving them still with some of those questions. I mean,
If you want to talk to him,
Exactly.
That's right.
I like that.
Brandon has a nice phone voice.
Thanks for radio. Have a good day. All right, well, I'll be quick here on the next couple of topics, but the results are really what I wanted to hit on. There's a handful of slides and I'll just kind of give you some of the highlights. The next section, the next two sections really highlight two areas that we're focused on more broadly in terms of continuing to drive the right engagement. And the first one is around supporting enrollment. I think, one point to note is that we have been working on a streamlined online enrollment experience to really reduce the number of steps and make it easier for participants and eligible participants to go through the process. what you'll see here in the next couple slides, and I won't take you through page by page, but what you'll see is that the participant engagement program kind of surrounds that online enrollment experience, and you can think about it in two ways. One is that if we have the opportunity, so you think about running webinars, NEO, meetings like, and places where we can get information on eligible employees. Once we get that information, we can then proactively reach out to them via email and say, hey, if you didn't already enroll, now's the time, here's reasons why. Kind of give them a couple extra nudges that way. And then once people start into the online enrollment process, I call this the abandoned cart email, which is, we all know you go online, you put something in your cart, you don't purchase it, and then you get the email that says, hey, come back and finish what you started. We do that same thing. We do give it about 24 hours because we know that sometimes people might start and then they want to go home and talk to a partner or someone at home. But we're seeing really great results with some of our other plans and being able to implement those eligible campaigns on the front end, as well as that kind of abandoned cart process. So as we start to roll out the new online experience here for the city that, you know, Brad and Karina will be bringing to you, know that there's kind of a complement to it, which is the communications component to help get people in and then help get them to finish. And those are really kind of our two key goals around it. And then finally, so that's kind of the next couple of slides I really just sort of summarized in those words. The last piece that I'll highlight here, go a few slides forward, is around asset retention. And this is an area where I would say we are seeing across the board a number of larger trends going on. We have huge volume of people that are turning 65 and kind of entering into that retirement age. And ultimately, we're seeing, you know, people that are rolling their money out of the plan. And so we all know that for a lot of people, staying in plan is oftentimes the best option, and that's really what we want to continue to promote. And so what we're starting to do here is implement additional campaigns around the asset retention that are really going to help us get in front of with both that kind of top level awareness education. A lot of times people don't even know that they can stay in plan as they're nearing retirement, and really getting in front of that in that kind of pre-retiree stage. This is also where we use predictive models. And so we have an opportunity with our data scientists to build these models that say, hey, based on age and account balance and what that account balance trend has looked like over time and how many times you've called us and if you've taken a loan, and we look at all of these different factors and say, I think this person could be at risk for rolling out of the plan. And so we use that not to plant the seed and say, hey, you're going to roll out, but rather to kind of proactively get in front of them and say, hey, if you're thinking about options for what to do with your retirement, we can help. Got a plan, that's great. If you need to talk to someone, we have people to help. If you want to learn more about your options, we have resources there. And then it's also important to note that we're including in that audience, we're really thinking about not just that pre-retiree, but going younger, kind of all the way down to about age 40 or 45, because we know people are terminated or changing jobs. That's oftentimes a big trigger for people to roll out of the plan. And that's an area where, again, we can continue to educate them on the benefits of keeping some of their assets here. So this is, like I said, an area that we've been very focused on, trying to think strategically around how can we get in front of some of those, higher risk participants, and then using some of the different touch points that we have here to help really reinforce the value of the plan and staying in plan. So that's a newer effort. We're just starting to launch some of those campaigns here in the back half of this year. And so we expect that's going to start to have some impact on the asset retention.
You see an increase in number of percentage of rollouts for those who are eligible instead of the last year.
Are we seeing an increase in people rolling
Number
out?
of people who roll out that are eligible last month.
Yeah.
What's that percentage?
I don't have it off the top of my head for the city. We certainly can get it. I don't know if you know if we do. But it's notable enough that we have started to put some extra energy
Well,
behind it.
if you happen to work something like this to do these things, for example.
I would like to review, if we can, marketing on that specific piece. You're gonna market to retirees who are moving money out of the plan right now.
We are marketing to pre-retirees and retirees that we think could be at risk of moving. So not ones that actually have moved money, but
Sure.
people that we think could.
I'd like to review that, if you don't
For
mind.
sure.
I'd like the board to do that. I'm in, I want the board to review it. It's been a hot topic around here for a while.
Yep.
I won't get into that right now.
Yeah.
That's something you're putting, and I think these are your words, you're gonna put effort into, because you're seeing a pattern that you're not happy with.
Yeah.
Have we put effort, the same effort into the Roth or the percentage based on? Those numbers are pretty low as well. We've discussed that for a long time.
Okay.
I don't know that we have. And my thought is nationwide benefits from people leaving their money in the plan, as the members do.
Yep.
They don't benefit as much for the marketing I just recommended on Roth or percentage. Which is maybe why they're not focused on getting that. Here,
Okay.
right? That's why I'm saying, I want to pull any punches on you, but that's important to us. So I'd like to see the same effort put into that, and I'd like to review it because I think there's reasons that people are moving money out of the plan. I've made it clear, I've educated my members on why they probably should consider moving money out of the plan. And I don't want a conflicting message going on. That's
Absolutely. We can do two things on that front, as a follow-up. One is, certainly get you the materials, the board, so you can see, some of those proactive messages that we're sharing. And two is, again, I don't know off the top of my head, if the universe that we're marketing to includes the percentage-based option and Roth. And so I need to go back and check and say, hey, are they included in these touch points? Yes, and I'll let you know. And if not, then put additional effort in reaching that audience as well.
Can you remind me about, is there an age maximum and for retirees? Is there, I think I'm remembering, is there an age maximum that after a person reaches a certain age, if they're retired, they must move their money? There's not.
There
Okay.
is a required minimum distribution. If they're not working.
Okay,
that's
required distribution, right, that's what I'm. Okay, so distribution meaning all, part, or,
No, just the required minimum distribution.
okay, a percentage, okay. So
We
maybe,
actually, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, Nina.
One thing that we are doing is for those that are eligible for required minimum distribution, we do highlight that on their statement, so they're aware in advance. But yeah, and we sent them.
Okay. Because one of the things, I think that's another opportunity, because as people are getting older, it used to be in our parents' age, they retired earlier, younger. Now that needle is moving and people are working longer. Okay, as much as we like to hear Gen Z say they're gonna become millionaires by the time they're 30, the reality is people are working longer. So therefore, the communication needs to be a little bit different in terms of ensuring that people understand those aspects, because, yes, we're moving in that direction.
So Brian, you want the committee to meet again to review some of the messages?
We think that's the best option. I just
That's on the
want to make sure that the message is consistent to the message we would like to see go out, right? We have to speak to the members. So do you think we should go to the committee on it? Do you think
It's already,
back to the board?
it's already a
I
committee.
think it's that committee.
Right.
I was alluding to the committee.
Yeah,
That
I was on that committee. Yes.
Well, I'll speak up to these committee.
The committee should put that before it goes out. Is that yes,
I think that's a good idea.
okay with that?
And so wasn't you on the committee too?
Who am I?
Why not?
Renee up. No, it is a committee already for the deferred comp, education committee already.
Yeah.
I thought you were on the with being Marshall. But you're welcome to join.
It'll be fun.
Chris will send out Chris will send out I think the controller's office on it.
And Jackie, okay, one of the, Brian, just to your point on the percentage. So, the PEP is one aspect of our marketing that's doing. We also have the kind of one-off campaigns, if you will, that we do for the city on an annual basis. Earlier this year, we did do one on percentage contribution That was an email that was sent to every member of the plan that is contributing a dollar amount
Mhm.
to the, to tell them the benefits of doing percentage contribution. A couple minor things that were also done, you know, we went to our IT folks and on the online enrollment process. It used to be where you went in and said, how much do I want to come out of my paycheck? The first option you had was dollar. And you had to click on it to change it to percent. Earlier, at the beginning of the year, later, we had to change that. Now the default is percentage. And you could do dollar. So I just didn't want you to think that we weren't doing stuff on that.
I think he more or less, as we get closer to retirement, he should be staying in plan A, but plan B. Should we do the wrong based on this, or should we not? Like that kind of thing.
It was just the,
If you wanna stay in deferred comp nationwide, or wanna move your money out, but why you should stay in deferred comp nationwide? Is the message we're trying to send, but we want to be consistent.
I want to make sure that we agree with the message that's going out. Right. That's all.
Great, so Brandon's team will reach out to you and convene that committee and we'll work with it. Oh, great. Any other questions on the PEB update? Like I said, we're thrilled to have such a good initial result from the first 6 months, and seeing how well the participants are responding, and happy to follow up on a couple of these items. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Right, great. We have one last item we have to take.
You agree, that'd be good. Thank you.
Before we move to the next. Just that moves us into the quarterly.
So we're in the second quarter of 2024. You can see that 16 of the 24 fund option plan ranked above the years. 19 of the 24 ranked above 5 years. Looking at individual funds in the lineup, staff has 3 recommendations. We would recommend we kind of kept Carter on watch for a while. Their performance, as we've talked about before, has continued to improve. You can see now over the period of 1 year, longer period of 5 years, during four cycles. I think they just did really good results on that list. Dodge and Cox, I think, should remain there. They are underperforming in the shorter time periods. 5 years, still doing well. Interestingly, more of a difficult time for active managers in that space. So even with the underperformance, they still rank reasonably above next to their peers. There's one fund we'd like to recommend replacing and bringing options to use next month. We've talked about this fund before. It's kind of ESG status in the lineup. That's Ariel. They really struggled. They're at the bottom percentiles for both the short and long periods. Assuming the board doesn't have any objections, we can bring research and Oscar replacements.
That ranking would extract to other funds. Russell, the cap value index, not ESG. Correct. Just check.
Yeah.
That's correct.
We have, just to follow up on that, we have had some discussions, I think Brian and some others have talked about perhaps the fact that that fund is a little more ESG focused, being clear. So one of the things we look at is whether or not it makes sense to bring something like the socially responsible index or something that's more clear through its title. That leans or relies more heavily on those factors than this particular.
On your time, if you come back, I'm sorry, you said for the second year. Any other questions?
And then just quickly, Vanguard money market account through the end of June, balance a little $158,000. Total income in the second quarter was just over $15,000. Only one expense, year to date through June, prior to your plan audit. Will see in the footnote that it started the third quarter, it was paid in the most recent plan audit. And that would be reflected in the third quarter.
Right. Questions from the board? We motion was to be fine. We're gonna take a 5 or 6 minute break before we go into a question. I do want to try and get people back if we have the asset allocation. Longer presentations, so see you all in 6 minutes. So we're good.
First item is, on the minutes from July, approved roughly second of year. Minutes. Francois. Approved. Willie. Approved. Carol. Approved. Marcia.
Approved.
Adam. Approved. Christine. Approved. Harry. Sorry, you're like. I counted your vote before you said it. That takes us to the, vote.
Thanks, Rob. And there should be an email with updated copy yesterday, which should be in your document. So you know the board had an aspirational program where the funds, equity and fixed income management were encouraged on an aspirational basis and annually direct 35% of the trades to the local mortgage and brokerage firms. On the equity side, during the second quarter, 38% of the trades went to qualifying firms. Year to date, 43%, apparently kind of the highest. Two managers on this side I'd like to highlight, investors group a little bit, lower at 18%. I think it's the year to date, we really have all of that, after Labor Day. The other fund, which will also, for the manager, which will also come out during investment review, which is capital group, and continue to be a laggard. Multiple conversations with them. As I said, there's some challenges, for them on the one side. On the fixed income side, 25% overall year to date. Four of the managers, either above or under, targeted Skin Garcia, Line and Lord Abbott. MetLife, their numbers have continued to steadily rise. We've been working with them. Longfellow has long done a good job.
I see what you did there.
It wasn't intentional. They've normally done a very good job. Even though they've been forward for a while. So I'm not terribly concerned about 10%, although I'm just, just to see how it's tracking. The all in all, pretty good number, with the exception of the two I highlighted.
You're following.
And we're following for this couple. And you should have received separate the large quote that was in your box, has multiple tabs and you get with summary, individual performance numbers, asset allocation materials. Focusing first on the fund performance for the month. Another strong one for the plan, just behind the benchmark, 2.4%. This is the policy at 2.5. One thing to note as you go further out, you are seeing 3 to 4 year period outperformance, and then you go out further, there's continued tightening of that spread going further out. Leads itself to June as far back as 2016. I'd also note you'll have estimates later today, or recent estimates, but through August 20th, the plan on a month-to-date, fiscal year-to-date, year-to-date basis is performing all reported. Couple managers to highlight, three small cap equity managers and one other. Small cap managers as a whole struggled during July. So we saw some underperformance over the shorter term from Emerald, Sierra, and Ernest. I would note that all three of them, over the long term, outperforming rather significantly. But the things we saw in common, yeah, Emerald in particular, that's really a short term.
Yes.
Um, we saw similar things kind of affecting equities in this space. There was a pretty impressive rotation out of growth stocks, value. Saw more lower quality, higher leverage companies doing better, which is not necessarily signs that we tend to target, particularly in the long term. Fastest growing companies at the top were the worst performing, which did hurt things like Emerald. And then there was also a reconstituting of the Russell Index towards the end of the quarter, and that had some negative impact.
I think not everything.
None of them are,
We,
none of them are doing anything, we're kind of out of step with what we hired one, you can see, but technology fears is back 15 and almost 20 years, really strong performance. Ernest has only been 2.5 years. You're supposed to the one manager we talked about before also came up during the growth report, which has been in the fund for about 2.5 years. Yeah, 2.5 years, but continued to struggle and with staff. It's been a disappointment. It's definitely, we talked to Marquette. Folks internally have talked about this. We'd like to bring a recommendation to Cleveland's thoughts about how we perhaps where maybe some of off of that money. You know, you combine the underperformance with some of the other challenges we have on the growth side. It makes sense from our perspective. So we can take a look at some options for their category. It would likely be to either one of the other active managers or to the index. I don't think we could probably necessarily have the search. That we have causeway to the candidate. It's viable options. Part of the only other thing we have to discuss is whether we take all that money into cash and then invest it in some sort of transfer. Or recommend having stocks and
So, yeah, good.
to
So, we can consider like going down some of the money that we go and then,
that's one of the options. I think. It's bring whether it's a partial redemption or transfer. We're gonna have consider multiple options. The only option that we discussed much termination would be whether we should take some of the money we suggested. Take all of it. Some here, of course, that we. What's the background?
so Rob,
what's causing that?
what's called the,
Honestly, you know, it's, it's as simple as picking stocks that are worse than that's overweight. It's as simple as research, their execution, or active managers.
That looks like.
It's been very consistently. They've had a couple months or quarters where it looks like it's starting to turn around and it tends to go back to the trend line that we've seen here. Consistent.
so what would be, or would there be able to? Besides with working cash right now, with the allocation based on their performance.
That's always within the board's, that's always within the board's purview. So it's 64 million, give or take, at the end of July, is where they're at now. Board. So it's today, reducing around the 340. So some staff, execute, but.
Just the application.
Yeah, no, but how about that? I got that part.
Okay,
I'll push it over to them.
Yeah.
Chris,
good choice.
yeah.
And quick, how much? Yeah,
I mean, I can defer to Chris, but typically as a starting point, we'll look at 25 to 50%. Sounds like the contact, so at least that's still a meaningful balance.
yeah, that's what I see.
Yeah, you did.
And then what would we do with that?
I would recommend at least a temporary, yeah, it'll be somewhere depending on what the balance at the time.
Yeah.
32-ish million.
Okay,
I think at least as a temporary, we would move into the index. We came back next month to discuss options for the rest of the capital and longer term plans. We can talk about whether it makes sense to leave it next or to put it out.
Maybe we should keep the allocation by the, whatever that we say.
second. You were probably second it. Thanks a lot. Paul. Brian. Really? Harold. Good.
Right.
Carried.
Yes.
That is nigga with fire.
Either just 50% fire. Fire.
Right, Bill?
Quiet.
Get involved. That's what's up.
Quiet.
We're a little like low on that. That was for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
In terms of the asset allocation and all that. Two separate tabs. The first is market defined benefit asset allocation studies. Tab 3. This one thing I just wanted to do before we start with page 10 of the asset allocation study. As a half-million summary. I believe there was some incorrect data transmitted from the Marquette. We are working with Alberta, Wakefield, Bailey, et cetera, on revising that page.
So ignore that.
So before page 10 is sent out before the next meeting and folks want to talk about it.
All right, so on the back of exhibit 2, or the beginning of exhibit 2, I should say, we have the asset allocation study. Again, by a very quick introduction, my colleague Haley Cullum. Haley is someone that I work very closely with respect to private markets. So as we talk about private markets, if there are any questions regarding that, the goal is to have Haley and I, and then Chad in the back, kind of touch upon those. So really, the beginning of exhibit 2, we have the first page. For some of you, this is the first asset allocation that we're going through. So this page is just a preamble with respect to what we look at, the process we go through. It's a simulation, and then ultimately it's
You explain what that is.
yeah, Monte Carlo simulation is basically within the investment field. You can think about every asset class having a very long response room. So Monte Carlo simulation basically allows us to model out multiple scenarios, thousands of scenarios with respect to what the market can do, how it can behave, and then we have essentially a mean and median result that we produce. That mean and median result typically just gives us a sense of the behavior of the market across a full cycle. So the Monte Carlo is a very effective way of forecasting how we think certain asset classes are going. So the preamble on page 2, and then page 3 gives us the expected returns for the asset classes. So as an example, if we look at fixed incomes for bonds, we're expecting an average annual return of 4.8% with a volatility or sanity of 5%. And then when we talk about distributions, we talk about tail events. We can think about the 5th percentile and the 95th percentile being those tail distributions, either a very positive environment in the case of a 95th percentile return, or a very negative environment in terms of that 5th percentile return. So for fixed income, we're actually looking at pretty robust forecast for the asset class based off where things are going with respect to interest rates, Fed policy, and so on. On the equity side, we get a sense of the tail distribution there, where you'll see negative results for some equities on the 5th percentile, and then extremely positive on the 95th. And our focus really is on that 50th percentile. So the 5th and 95th give us a sense of how those asset classes can perform in an extreme market environment. But again, everything essentially. Yes, that's exactly it. Upside and downside risk. And then the 50th percentile is really that smoothed out return that incorporates a good period, a bad period, putting everything together. That gives us a realistic return stream. Yes.
And you're trying to put together an asset allocation that minimizes the downside while ensuring that that's the overall goal here.
That's exactly it. So a very risk conscious asset allocation. We're not just focused on the upside, we're also focused on the risks being taken and then the downside risks in particular with the asset classes we have exposure.
And then liquidity to make that.
Yes, liquidity, and we'll touch upon this momentarily. One of the really, really nice things about this plan is the very, I guess, cash-rich position that we're in. So while liquidity is something that we're very conscious around, or I should say about, at the end of the day, we've gotten very good distributions in, and those distributions have been very helpful in terms of boosting up those positive returns and not seeping into the body of the portfolio to make all of the benefit payments when they're used.
So you make the assumption about fixed income into you anticipate interest rates. Aside from generally down, you have more specificity with what the model is anticipating concerning interest rates going out and further.
No, so I would say that the model is essentially, I wouldn't say assuming, but all models assume some degree of mean reversion. So the model would assume that where spreads are now isn't sustainable. The inversion in the yield curve isn't sustainable. So in a mean reverting environment, as things come down at the shorter end of the curve, they boost up on the longer end of the curve. Those are all factored into the Monte Carlo to give us that return. So
The way down would be a little more steady than the way up was. So it's pretty quick.
it was extremely quick. The one thing that could lead to a rapid decline in interest rates would be if the Fed is essentially, again, overshot with keeping rates where they are. So if, for example,
The economy slows really quickly. Right?
yes, yes. So with unemployment being revised down by 1 million jobs, basically, that's an example of if we continue to get revisions like that, the Fed may in fact just be a little bit more dovish with respect to its stance, given the fact that inflation is now hovering around where they see fit. Yes, 2%. That's correct.
2% magic.
Yes, it's the random 2%. It's like the natural rate of unemployment. It's the random number that's made up, and folks agree with it. So page 4 takes
to look like.
yes, exactly. So page 4 takes us to the asset allocation, and I wanted to highlight a couple of things. So firstly, we haven't changed the recommended asset allocation. So option A is what was approved at the table at the end of 2023, which we're still implementing towards. The implementation, we'll talk about that momentarily, but just wanted to mention that these do not reflect any changes to the asset allocation that was approved. what we wanted to do here is show, based off, most up-to-date assumptions, 12 months out, what is the expected return of the approved portfolio. We also wanted to show where the current portfolio stood as of 6/30, just to give us a sense of where we are in the transition. So as we look at the current allocation as of 6/30, we'll see here, for example, the 5.8% in T-bills or cash. You will see here that we have a 4% allocation to cash as part of the asset allocation, and that does factor in the liquidity that we have, rather than I guess have a 0% allocation to cash, and then ultimately, every year spend a couple of quarters rebalancing out of cash. Let's have the cash position. And then as we look at fixed income, we are, or I should say, we're at 15.4% through the end of June. You can see here that we're still transitioning to that 24% mark.
You remember where we started? We were
11 and change, I want to say 11.2%. The initial,
right.
correct. We have the initial memo, the kind of accompanied the asset allocation, had a pretty thoughtful timeline in place that really took into account the volatility around fixed income and the Fed. And it really took us through till, potentially the end of 2025 for the transition, because we didn't want to, put everything in fixed income all at once. We know that fixed income is exhibiting the same type of volatility as equities. So we wanted to, again, phase in, do it around the timing of the Fed announcements. That way we minimize the volatility that's entered in the portfolio of fixed income.
And they're running the after.
I was,
Yes.
man, over the last year, I mean, I just look back to the benchmark that I think our custom benchmark for equities was on. So you have that much of a change for the biggest asset class, it's gonna naturally put downward pressure on the percentage of fixed income. So that's part of the challenge to get it this way. It's a good problem to have, but
Yes.
it does make this, I think, look a little outsized than it actually
Yes.
would be.
Yes.
Yeah, unless they could keep running up.
And given the fact we are in an election year, statistically, we are in an election year. It's weird, right? It's something going on in the country. But statistically speaking, we are positioned, or I should say the market's positioned for a positive result. Just given the fact that election years are typically positive for the US market, with the exception of 2008. In recent history, election cycles have been very positive for the market. So that's another good thing to kind of think about. So as we think about fixed income, we just discussed that we are transitioning assets to fixed income. We do have another tranche that's being teed up, which we'll discuss. I guess now would be a good time to discuss it if that time makes sense, Chris.
Yeah, so there's a memo with very bad. Well, not the very bad, but I think tab 4 of your binders. It just updates the trust rule. Where RRP money back in March 2024, how much is better invested? Yeah.
It's not in the, not in the, yeah. Not in the book, in this book, rather.
Sources, I'm in this book.
Yeah.
I'm in this.
Not in there.
Oh. I put a special down.
You are.
That is right.
That's right. Why not sit?
That's enough, and I'll make copies.
In the back now.
No, it's not. You have.
So, back
We got the, and this is better. You can get the,
I got.
you know, trade off the like. Purple page.
Didn't you see that?
No.
You don't have a purple page?
You should
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't have a book.
that
We'll
purple
come back.
too.
Come back to the RFP.
Thank you for bringing it back.
Yeah, on the RFP, we'll see that basically, I think it was around 600 million, that was what we were looking to rebalance. Of that amount, around half has been rebalanced thus far. And then we have around 60 million that will get teed up, the discussion plan, that will be brought, back down. So again, very, thoughtful, systematic, and in line with, the framework and the timing that we discussed. Once again, it's really at the board's discretion, to either speed up or slow down the process based on updates that we provide at the table on a monthly basis. But right now, the market appears to be normalizing fixed income, which is finally rates are beginning to be coming down at the longer end. So 50 basis point cut is basically what's on the horizon for September. We'll see how close the market is to that prediction. Expectation is if it's more than 50 basis points, the market could freak out just because it's a sign that things are slowing down. Seems unlikely. If it's less than 50 basis points, it seems like the market could freak out. It's not 50 basis points.
Even if it's basic point, we're pretty guys, that's what it does.
So basically, volatility is definitely on the horizon
Yeah.
because investors are on edge. We think about the cycle we've been through. The market right now is all freaked out on Nvidia, on company. Whole market's looking at it, and that's just not a rational place to be. And so as we go back to the asset allocation once again, the building blocks we have and the blocking and tackling in the portfolio does take into account the fact that the market is extremely irrational. Our job is to kind of navigate the irrationality by sensibly investing in asset classes that mean revert, have long patterns of behavior.
Irrational and international world.
Yes, whereas rational can be the rational world, absolutely. And sometimes it does lead to, just these very thoughtful discussions we have at the table. But as Chris mentioned, as we go through the returns in the portfolio, we continue to see that spread between the portfolio and the index over the long term. That does continue to narrow. So as we look at, we mentioned cash, we've gone through fixed income, so still transitioning to fixed income. As we look at the US FD allocation, US FDs, as Chris had mentioned, had a really good run year to date. So up close to 20%, even with the really big sell-off we saw early this month. So equities doing very, very well. So not surprisingly, equities are a little bit overweight relative to target. Once again, a really good product to have. This is both on the US as well as the non-US front. Now, as we get to the fixed income, equities, and liquid discussion of the portfolio, we basically covered, the asset classes that are subject to the day-to-day volatility of the market. To make sure that we're not beholden to just what the market does on any given day, we have other asset classes in the portfolio that are really diversified. When we think about the diversification benefit that comes from these other asset classes, core real estate, infrastructure, and then our private markets, private debt, private equity. The goal of these asset classes is twofold. One is to provide returns to the portfolio long term. The other goal is to provide that downside protection as and when we see spiked up periods of volatility. And what we see here, the current allocation is a really good allocation when we map it on, let's say, a mean variance chart. But what's really nice about the current portfolio, or I should say alternate age, which is what we're transitioning to, you'll see that we bring down risk, volatility in the portfolio even more. So even though the current allocation is a really good allocation, we essentially optimize the portfolio, taking a little risk on the table. Ultimately, that's really in line with the discount rate that continues to ratchet down. So I mentioned the cash position being enviable. The other thing that's really enviable is just very thoughtful way of over an annual basis, just smoothing out the discount rate and lowering it consistently. So we're having to, I guess, stress less further for returns because that's built in. And the asset allocation acknowledges that by taking some risk off the table.
Is there a range of volatility to think of as optimal where that should be?
Yeah, so I would say that as we think about the range of volatility, we can think about, for example, don't have the exhibit right in front of me, but I would say the range of volatility, 10% to that 8% mark, 8 to 10%. Very, very reasonable for a plan like ours.
So 10.4, a little bit high.
No, it's still within the realm of reasonableness because we essentially had the 10.4 is a little bit exaggerated just because it has the overweight from equities. So equities are more volatile. Okay, right. So it reflects the good problem that we have. More risk was added to the portfolio because of equities. But yeah, longer term, bringing down the equities a little bit, bringing up fixed income a little bit, and then maintaining healthy allocations to private markets has been a very helpful strategy for us. Haley, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit just to kind of talk about private markets and what we've seen, I'd say, over this cycle, right? Which types of strategies have done well, how the Philly portfolio is positioned, because we block and tackle in the lower to middle market space. There have been a lot of really good ideas that have been rolled out to the market, but the market environment, the volatility, uncertainty with interest rates, geopolitical conflicts, banks blowing up at the regional level, a lot of these good ideas have not transpired. I think in the ideal way, the sellers of those ideas would have liked them to. So with that, wanted to turn it to Haley just to give a macro overview of the private markets, and then really just kind of dovetail into why this approach here that was approved last year still continues to be the approach that we're advocating for the table today.
For sure. I'll start with private equity. I think we continue to have a focus on the middle market rather than strategies like venture capital for a few reasons. First being the volatility in venture capital. I think in 2019, 2020, all the headlines were pointing towards venture capital being the hot asset class. We pulled back, and I think that is definitely proven to be very positive for the portfolio. Those returns have, or venture capital has not performed where we would like to see it. So I think sticking to what we know has been tested and performed well, it is mitigating risk, sticking to middle market. It may seem boring, it may not be what's in the news, but I think it's proven to be a very attractive strategy. Yeah, no, I think it's not boring. You're still getting great outside returns, but the downside is something that's not mentioned in the headlines and the news and everything. So I think we continue to be bullish on middle market, maybe a little more hesitant on venture capital. And then we continue to think private debt is an asset class that's here to stay, focusing on the middle market, direct lending. So continue with there.
Yeah, and just to Haley's point there, as we think about the alternatives exposure, again, that is a source of return. It's a source of risk diversification, and making sure that risk diversification is something we really lean into. There are certain strategies that will make sense all day, every day for the portfolio. There's other strategies at this point in the cycle that we can take a look at and continue to assess, if the market turns this way or that way, what would it mean for the portfolio? But all in all, the private markets portfolios continue to be a good source of diversification and return. So it's acting in accordance with what was laid out in the asset allocation. As we think about on page 5 with the asset allocation, what we do here is essentially collapse all the different categories on the prior page, just to give you a sense of what we have in equities, what we have in fixed income, what we have in cash, what we have in private markets, what we have in real assets. And again, this ends up being very liquid, very transparent, but still a portfolio that's investing in areas of the market that are not traditional. So that's the quick takeaway from this particular page. Page 6 gives us a sense of the potential distribution of returns. So if we think about a really good environment, what does that sum up as? The market continues to go up forever. We can think about 2009 until 2020, more or less. Market just went up tremendously, more years less, and less years down. And that would be like a 95th percentile situation. So with the current allocation, again, because we have an overweight to equity right now, the current allocation in the 95th percentile would outperform option A in the 95th percentile. But again, option A, these are the target weights. Option A takes into account the 7.3% discount rate. And then option A also takes into account The fact that, we've increased how much fixed income we have in the portfolio. So 11.7% in the best case scenario. But then option A with less equities, you're looking at essentially in a fifth percentile scenario, which is just an example of the sell-off. We would expect option A to be better on the downside than the current allocation, because again, we've allocated a little bit more to fixed income versus your equities.
And really some downside protection in exchange for giving up.
Correct.
So,
Correct. And the really, and keep on saying it's really nice, but it's a really nice case study plan, because how many plans end up saying bringing down our discount rate would improve our funded status, and all but really liquid. It's like just a perfect storm of many things happening. So
In a good way.
yes, in a really good way. So if we think about these scenarios, again, we're buffered really nicely from a lot of things. Which is a good thing to see. With respect to, let's see, what other exhibits we have here. I mean, I think that would really end the discussion. I mean, we can go into page 11 and pages 12 really quickly. Just to show the liquidity as of 6:30, portfolio's liquidity at the targets, and we're not seeing much of it. Portfolio is still basically 3/4 daily liquid, and the liquidity premium that we are paying, that has been something we've been compensating for in the return stream. So again, a pretty good proof stage here with respect to the state of the portfolio and the liquidity of the portfolio. If there aren't any questions, let me pause and see if there are any questions.
yes, we don't want that.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, really under exhibit 3, I won't spend too much time going through exhibit 3, because typically in the spring, I think we spend a little bit more time going through the stress test, but this exhibit or this attachment here does a good job of, again, just walking through how the portfolio could behave in different environments. So on page 3, for example, we talk about the historical scenarios that the market has experienced. We have the financial crisis, we have the debt ceiling crisis and downgrade, Black Monday, interest rate spikes. So we get a sense of how the portfolio is behaving in those environments. And then we have a couple of hypothetical scenarios where if the market is going down by, let's say, 20% per year, that's a year like 2022, we get a sense of how the portfolio is essentially doing. So on page 5, for example, this is a baseline scenario. So the baseline scenario assumes that the market is just the normal market environment. It goes up, it goes down, but it normalizes to be
That's not taking the lead.
yes. So it's taking all the events and it kind of just forces everything out to a normal market environment. That gets us to that 7.5% annualized 3-year return. But then an environment like 2008 financial crisis, where equities go down 20 to 50%, treasuries come down 140 basis points. We get a sense of how the portfolio would be good. No, it wouldn't be good for anyone. It wouldn't be good for us. But when we think about the type of return we would have in that environment, it's not good, but the negative 6.1% versus, let's say, negative double digits is, again, a good gauge of the downside protection that's built into the portfolio.
And we're looking at still relatively short.
Yes, is that
Longer term.
correct? So one of the nice things about the market, and one of the nice things about, whether it's mean reversion, the fact that we are in an economy that's growing, right? Even if it contracts, it's going to grow long term. Even if market goes down a week, a month, it's going to rebound. So the nice thing here is, you're right, these are point in time events, but these point in time events like 2008, 2020, the end of 2018, where the market freaked out, this rates were going to go up and sold out. All of these things we do come back from. So we're the types of asset classes where, again, rebounds happen versus a rebound happens, but still waiting for that thesis of the managers. So no surprises when we think about the scenario analysis. In very extreme environments, we do see downside. But again, that downside, the measure of the downside, these aren't extreme numbers. To go through a year like 2008, but still to be down like 6.1% in a worst case scenario, it's a pretty good result to kind of work our way out of. As we think about the positive scenarios, you just mentioned the negative ones. We can go back to a period like 2009 and, add a decade, but through a really nice period with the market goes up. So we've also experienced markets going up pretty tremendously. And as we think about environments where the market is doing exceptionally well, we can point to an environment where it's in a little bit on one because in the old world before the Fed, page 8, interest rates going up until this transitory period of inflation. Those are rates would go up because the economy would do well. So this is actually a good scenario. We've been trained in the last few years to be rates going up with the Fed. But as we can think about these scenarios, we end up over like a 3-year period averaging close to 8%, with the current allocation over 7%, with the current allocation with the 1% interest rate rise. If rates do rise consistently by 1% each year for 3 years, obviously there's going to be a drag down as we've seen in the market. Market doesn't like consistently high interest rates, so that also explains the relative differential in return when we compare 7.1% for option A to the 6.7% for option A across the two different interest rate environments. But again, all in all, no. Yeah, very deliberate to not make a change because everything has happened, but nothing has happened for us to say being more transparent, being more liquid, being focused on downside protection. That thesis needs to change. So ultimately, still moving forward with the asset allocation that was approved last year, still going through the transition to fixed income. And I think you all have the memo in front of you, so we can touch upon that. And now is the time to do that.
I just wanted to add super quickly, one thing I don't think that reflected maybe overtly the stress test is that the board's the positive cash flow also helps with the downside protection. You don't exacerbate the problem during the down market by having to sell off at a lower point. You have the positive cash flow. We have folks like Tyrone, Kristen, and others, Crystal, who are actively managing the cash balance for benefit payments. And that happens. You don't have to sell off assets in the down period. That also helps mitigate the downside.
And in a year like 2020, that was great. Everything went down. It was the easiest phone call inflation ashes there, and we started to rebound. So you have to pinch yourself when these moments happen because it's not every day. The big plan.
All these meetings are like you're pinch yourself. It's so good.
Yeah, no, because it's a big plan. There's a lot going on in terms of making sure that returns are consistent. They're being helped by how the plan is structured. That's such a gift. Like to be able to rely on cash flows and not have to be creative, to not have to stretch for returns, to not have to push the envelope, and just go for that consistency. It's for a plan of this size. It's nice to be.
And very different from where we were like years ago. So
Yes, absolutely.
it is really good for like that.
Apologies again for the few of you who didn't get the RFP document from your binders. You'll see that back in March, we received just under 575 million. Larger portion of the RFP payment. Some of that was invested, following discussions with the board. You can see of the amount that we originally received, around 330 million still available to be invested. You can see the original proposed allocations amount that's still remaining to be allocated in illustration. Along with Marquette, we're proposing that Sia, Longfellow, Logan Circle, and Brandywine each receive an additional contribution of 50 million. Once that happens, assuming the board's okay with that, then we'd be down to around 270 remaining to be allocated, continue to come quarterly or annual basis to discuss every field additional funds should ever be timeline. As always, you know, these rebalancing recommendations are discussed internally with Marquette, so they're improving on both cash, and still maintaining a good pace towards the option. That's an application that we just assumed.
Cash stored on 5%.
Yes, but all the first thing they have, she may not, that's big for today's week, but last I looked at it with the last couple of days, it was actually slated with the 5 to 1, maybe 5 to 5 to. That's great.
So, you need the worst thing you have to, that information and it's on the brochure.
I think because you've approved it previously, as long as there's no, you know, objection or issues with what's being discussed, then I think we can just, you know, it's approved in March.
Thank you.
And then just to close the staff's report. Your securities fund income, a little under $139,000. 877,000 year to date. Almost 53 million since the program started. Local and diverse management plan, combined basis 59.7%. And the PPE management owned through 50.15. Around 9.7%. And then the upcoming board meeting are slowly first September 26th, October 24th. And then December schedule was focused instead by the president.
The new business. The old business. New public, that's the committee. For the full board session.
The next item, really,
Let's say,
yeah. Nice to see you.
Yeah, focus on the job.
Just